Hello. Testing. It's picnic day today, you might have noticed. And as you heard from our host this morning, we're continuing our exploration of the power of kindness this month, using the beautiful book by Piero Ferrucci, The Power of Kindness, subtitled The Unexpected Benefits of Leading a Compassionate Life. And this week in particular, we're looking at the chapter that has to do with empathy. And in each of the chapters, he has a subtitle, and this particular one is Empathy, Expansion of Consciousness, which is quite appropriate for empathy, because if you get into empathy, that's exactly what it does. It breaks down the walls, the barriers, and expands your consciousness so that you can move from the land that you know very well and feel free to roam around the country. The author, Piero Ferrucci, says in the book that he had this opportunity to hold an 18th century violin. It was beautifully crafted, and he talks about the experience of holding the instrument with all of the years of artistry going into making it so that it has resonance with all the sound around it. And as he held the instrument, he could feel it vibrate. So it wasn't a static or inert piece of art. It wasn't motionless. It was vibrating already as if alive. And it made me think about the harps that I have. I have some harps, and they resonate with whatever is happening in the room. If there's another sound in the room, you rest it up on your chest. Even before you play anything, you can feel the sound box. It's resonating. It's responding to everything around it. So I guess you might say that the capacity of the violin and the capacity of the harp is to enter into resonance with its environment. That's empathy. And the interesting thing is the harp and the violin, they resonate with the environment without losing their shape. Without losing their function, they continue to be a harp and a violin, but they can just, if we give them human attributes, they can just feel what's going on. Now, don't you know human beings have that kind of capacity too? Sometimes we have it unconsciously, which is the downside of it, Like when you walk into a room like this and there's music bopping along, soon you might be tapping your foot along with it. Or if you go into an environment where there's music, loud music, you just seem to acclimatize and it affects you. Sometimes, maybe you've had this experience where you walk into a room where an argument has just taken place, but you didn't know, and yet you can feel it. Does anybody know about that? Yeah, like the atmosphere of the argument still lingers in the room, and you walk in and some part of you is vibrating with that. Sometimes what happens is when we hang out with friends, we pick them up in that we start using their turn of phrase, their expressions, doing what they do. We start to vibrate with them. When I go back to South Africa, before long, I'm starting to speak in a full-on thing. You think this accent's bad. You should hear me after a few days in South Africa, right? And then I come back, and very soon I'm rolling my R's again because we respond to each other. We're environmentally sensitive beings. And the upside of that is that we can pick up some really beautiful, beneficial habits, especially if we're conscious about it, what we expose ourselves to. And I guess the downside of it is if we are unaware, then the environment can drag us down, and then one day we wake up and say, how did I get like this? What happened? I was at a seminar, and the leader of the seminar said, if you want to know what your values are and what you value, just take an inventory of the 10 people in your life that you spend the most time with. Now, she didn't say the 10 people that you admire, right? She didn't say the 10 people who are your role models. She said the 10 people you actually spend the most physical time with, and then do a summary of what they are all about, and then you'll find your own values as the median plane in that group. I was horrified. Just kidding. But don't you know, spiritual living is about when you and I wake up to the possibility of conscious choice, instead of letting the environment determine how we will be. Of exercising choice, because then the things that we've been talking about this month, like honesty and warmth and mindfulness and empathy, then we can choose to cultivate them purposefully. So it's a conscious direction that we go in. Because imagine the violin or imagine the harp sitting there saying to itself, what will I resonate with today? It can't. But we can. But we don't always. Certainly, for me, sometimes this would be my inner dialogue. Oh, what do I want to let take over and make me vibrate today? Right? I'm thinking about the violin and the harp sitting there. You know, if I unpack the harp, and even if a bus drives past, the sound and the vibration of the bus makes the harp vibrate. It responds to everything in its environment. It has no choice. Sometimes I'm like that, right? Like sometimes I hear a piece of news that I don't like, and it's like a bus, and there I go with the news. Sometimes it's good news. It's a good vibration. Oh, it takes me up. Still, I'm unconscious. Or somebody's behavior drives through my environment like a bus, and I'm going with them too, trying to match my behavior. Not even trying. It happens on a below the surface level. If I'm asleep. Spiritual living about reducing the amount of automatic reflex responses and waking up to purposeful choices about what I wish to cultivate in my life, like empathy. Why empathy? Because empathy increases our ability to be kind, and kind is a spiritual power that is unparalleled. Now, he talks in this little book about empathy in particular, saying that if this capacity to vibrate with people in a conscious way, if it does not develop sufficiently, or if it is thwarted, we are in trouble. If we are insensitive to the emotions of others, why, then each relationship becomes an impossible charade. And if we see others not as living subjects, but as things on a par with a refrigerator or a street lamp, we allow ourselves to manipulate and even to violate them. Without the vibration and the feeling, connection with other people, it's easy just to reduce them to a something, a thing. And we can do that with whole cultures. We can do that with whole races. We can do that with whole genders. You know, if we distance ourselves and look only at the surface, pick a few things to think about, make some assumptions, generalize it, and then prejudice is born out of that, and prejudice is exactly the opposite of empathy. Empathy requires that we leave the known territory of our country. It requires that we travel beyond the borders of what is ordinary and comfortable and known. Mark Twain said of travel that travel is fatal to bigotry and narrow-mindedness. And many other people need it sorely on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of people and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. We can use that, internalize it, not through vegetating in one little corner of my consciousness, not through vegetating in one little corner of my opinion, do I develop empathy. I have to travel beyond the borders of what I know or think I know. And you know, if you travel in consciousness or in the world, it will challenge your sense of normal. It will. This time in history, actually, you and I can travel to every corner of the world without even leaving our home, right? I mean, Google Maps, amazing. And all the information about the countries of the world and their cultures, but don't you know we have to go past the pictures. We have to go past the information, because empathy is not about information. Empathy is about vibration. Empathy is about understanding. So I have to go beyond the normal sources, my opinion and information in the news. I have to go past that. I have to have an explorer's attitude. I have to have a willingness to go where no person has gone before. It takes a little work. It takes an attitude of mind. My friend Paul Saran, who is on the sound today, he put on his Facebook page how he has a sincere desire to understand the attitude and mindset and thinking of people who have an opposite point of view to him when it comes to political matters. And he talked about his sincere journey to really take on their argument and listen to it. Not take on like in a combat, but to try it on. To sit in it. So with dropping the inclination to correct them and to give the counter argument, but to just understand it. I was so impressed with that. I'm going to try it myself. It's not easy. I mean, even, for example, the situation with Israel and Palestine right now, I really wanted to go beyond the surface and the available news, and I've been traveling a lot lately, so I took with me resources to read. I went right back to the beginning of time, to the formation of the countries. I read from every perspective. I read even travel logs. I read about organizations that represent both sides. I read from family sites that have lost people. I read the charters of the... And as I read, I realized the sense of complexity. And as I went further and further beyond the surface, I noticed a growing sense of uncomfortableness. As I came to realize that this is the sort of thing that leaves a person going, wow, I don't know. And to tell the truth, it's so much easier to stay on the surface. Just take a snippet of news and develop an opinion and tweet it to somebody. Be reactive and get married to that reaction. It's easier. I can just close myself off to what's going in the world. As long as I don't feel the vibration of the suffering in the world, I can be happy. I think, and I'm wrong in that thought. He says in the book, closing ourselves to other people makes us imbalanced, whereas participating in their lives makes us to be healthier and happier. And if you exclusively focus on yourself. Every week you hear the host say a portion of the vision of United Centers for Spiritual Living. Centers for Spiritual Living, that's the correct name of our movement. It's a vision of a world, a healthy, loving world that works for everyone. We talk about it every opportunity we can. And it occurred to me, if that's truly the vision that actuates our community, well then, I'm going to have to leave the confines of my country. I'm going to have to leave my country, my consciousness behind. I'm going to have to try on the world for its point of view. He also says in this little book that self-attention or self-focus is correlated with greater depression and anxiety. If you stay home, you get depressed. You must leave and travel for empathy to be born. There is a writer, I had to write his name down because it's all consonants like Christopher Fritchie's last name, so you got to figure out how to pronounce it. His name is Krznaric. And he is the faculty member and founder of the School of Life in London, and he is their expert on empathy. And he says empathy is a habit that we can cultivate. So it doesn't matter where you are with it right now, there's still time. You can cultivate it. And if you do, you're going to improve the quality of your life and the quality of the life of the people around you. That's how it works. And the way he defines empathy is the ability to step into another person's life, into their shoes, but not just step into it, but have the attitude of trying to understand their feelings and their perspective, the sincere desire to understand their feelings and perspective. You see, there's another dimension to empathy, and it is not to be confused with the golden rule, he says. Now, you know what the golden rule is. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You know, George Bernard Shaw is very witty in this regard. He says, do not do unto others as you would have them do unto you. They might have different tastes. Right? We need a higher rule, a platinum rule. Do unto others as they would like you to do unto them, according to their tastes. You see, and then empathy is the willingness and the effort we put into discovering their taste. We can improve our lives and the lives of people around us when we take the time to discover what makes us purr. You know, what makes us growl, what makes us tick. When you take the time to find out what makes somebody hurt, what makes them cry, what makes them sing, what makes them hope. That's empathy. It's an explorer's attitude. And Roman Krasnarek, he says that there are particular habits you can practice to develop this empathy inclination. And one of the habits he recommends that we practice, now this is an adult skill set, okay? And it's this. Practice talking to strangers. You know, I walk around Spring Lake with a friend of mine very frequently, and sometimes we give ourselves the task to see how many people walking in the opposite direction we can make say hello, right? Because then we'll big smile, hi, morning. And sometimes we're met with, you know, who is this insane person on the path? Because sometimes people are very contained in their space, you know. But what Roman is talking about is really more than just that game on the path. It's more than a greeting on the path. It's more than small talk. It has another dimension. Talking to strangers, it's about practicing being interested in people. Now, if you take the assignment I'm going to give you later on for today to practice talking to strangers, I want to give you a warning first. And it's this. Be classy about it. Yeah, do it with class. You know what I mean? Don't be obnoxious about it. You know, don't approach it. Don't with that intense stalker energy. You know, empathy is not happening. The person's retreating. Do you know what I mean? You have to approach it with a desire to learn more, to draw the person out instead of impose upon them, to understand more about them. So you've got to drop, like Paul dropped any inclination to correct, to stand in their assumptions, feel it. Drop any inclination to inform. And put aside your need to share yourself for a moment. Put your views on hold for a bit. Oh. You know, I know how it is sometimes when we're nervous. Maybe this happens to you. Sometimes when I'm nervous, my mouth just starts going. Then everything goes out the window. Then I'm not sharing, I'm just talking, random things come out of my mouth, Hello, I've got a blue car, the sky is blue, the sun might be shining, hello. Does anybody do that? Right? So we've got to have a little humor about our human condition. I did that with Steve Martin in an elevator. He must have thought he was just hoping the elevator door would open because I just was. See, sometimes I talk at people. It's different. It's a whole different thing. Romans says curiosity about people, it increases empathy because if you practice it with this mindset, it'll expand your awareness. It takes you out of your country. It allows you to vibrate with what's going on and expands you beyond your normal circumstances. We have a term for that in Science of Mind teaching. We call it the mental equivalent. What is normal for you, when we expand it, that allows the greater yet to be an opportunity to emerge. And not only that, it's also useful in relieving the rampant loneliness that afflicts our country. There is a book, it's called The Lonely American, in which it talks about how America in the 21st century spends more money than any nation on the earth ever before on social connectivity, and yet has one of the strongest growing sense of loneliness among individuals. So we must use even more skills than just social networking. We must use our hearts to guide us. So this is where today's assignment comes in, okay? Here's your assignment. Talk to people. Wait, let me say that better. Talk with people. Talk with strangers. And today is the perfect day to do it because it's the picnic day, right? So talk with someone you don't know. Classy, be classy. Let them go if they don't want to talk. Catch and release. Be classy. Be curious about them. Have it in your heart to see if you can gently draw them out. Yeah. Don't tell them who you are and what it is you know and how much of and this metaphysical truth and that and the next thing. And please don't choose me as the subject of your experiment. By the third service, and several hundred people, I start to get a little thin, and so people say, on stage he's so warm, but in person he's a little cold. No, I'm just exhausted. I'm not cold. Maybe I'm a little cold. He's so nice on stage. So if you see me at the picnic and I look like this, there's another companion practice that Roman offers that goes along with this. He says, practice listening hard. Now, listening hard, you know what that really means? It means be available. Make yourself available to the communication that wants to happen. Make yourself available to it. Just like how we practice to prepare ourselves to be available to meditation. You have to unfurl yourself. You have to place yourself. You have to invite stillness. Right? Because you can't approach what wants to happen in meditation like this while you are updating your Facebook status. It's not compatible with the meditation experience. Somebody sent me a link on email about, it was a video clip of a wedding. And it's filmed from the preacher's perspective over his shoulder, and he's standing there, you can see the book, and he's doing the wedding, and all of a sudden, the bride gets a text message. And I'm not kidding, she reaches into her bodice, and she pulls out and she answers it very deftly with one hand. She doesn't drop her bouquet, and she's answering the text message like this. And you can see the group looking at her, and auspiciously in the background between them is a street sign that says, "Stop." I hope the groom read it. What? Okay, maybe I am a bit cold, I don't know. Another companion practice that Roman gives us is this one. You can expand your empathy practices by going beyond the usual targets. Because often empathy is thought about in relation to people who are suffering. And he says this is necessary, but don't stop there. You can expand and include your empathy practice for those people with whom you have disagreement. He says this is very important. And don't stop there. You can expand your empathy practice to include those people you love, to rediscover them, to see, to confirm if what you think you know about them is true. Maybe you stopped listening. Maybe they've changed. Maybe you don't know anymore what makes them purr. There it is. So I invite you to breathe in with me and exhale. As we take a moment of inward celebration to acknowledge that presence, that divinity from which everything comes. We sometimes call it mind, to remind us that it is not local, non-physical, that it is like idea. And it is like idea in that it is the first cause of anything that appears. It is the source of everything that becomes. It is that before which there was nothing except itself. And as we dwell upon this concept of divinity, it allows us to feel an expanded sense of ourselves, that in this mind we live and breathe and move and have our being. It is our home, and we are inheritors of its nature, like a drop of ocean inherits the nature of the water. And so in this, our prayer, we take time to remember also that we are using this mind, even now, through our prayer, to reestablish ourselves in the mode of conscious choice, of being creators in our lives, of expressing beautifully exactly that which we wish to bring into this world. And today, our focus is on kindness through the lens of empathy. And we are beautifully aware that as we pray this prayer, it is as if the spiritual laws of the universe are listening in, paying attention to what it is that we are focusing upon, and translating that by some beautiful invisible mechanism into opportunities to do it. It is as if in this moment even we are becoming that which we are praying about. This is exactly why we say the words, I release this word into the law of mind, to remind us that even now we are becoming what we are praying about. And so it is.